Welcome to the DEAC.ai podcast, where Wake Forest innovators unpack the real-world magic of artificial intelligence through candid conversations. I'm Michael Ferrari.
I'm Ryan Scholl.
Please join us as we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming work across campus, one fascinating story at a time.
Wake Forest MSBA student Jalen Marshall got the keys to the DEAC cluster, so he watched a video and built himself a GPT. Yup, this is the advanced world we live in now. Along the way, he created a personal masterclass in the nuts and bolts of artificial intelligence. Did it scare him? A little. Did it energize him? You bet. He stopped being a user and started being a creator. Will he be the next solopreneur unicorn?
And we're back again with another DEAC.ai episode. Today is going to be a fun one. We have a student with us, and as usual, keep sending us feedback at deacs.ai@wfu.edu. Again, I'm here with the fastest man in web development, Michael Ferrari. I am Ryan Scholl. We are going to talk to Jalen Marshall. He is a graduate student in the, what program is it?
Wake Forest MSBA, Masters in Business Analytics.
I had that written down. Okay, so he's going to tell us all about his journey, how he got here, how he got into artificial intelligence. Originally started as a computer science undergrad. Wanted to do some video game coding, and then pivoted. Decided, I'm gonna go to Europe, do some things over in Europe for a while, come back to the U.S. Heard about Wake Forest. Now he's here. He's loving it, and he's a builder, and he's gonna tell us the story. So,
That's lovely.
Jalen, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Started as a college athlete, I would say, originally in upstate New York, and COVID happened. So I was studying computer science at the time. I pivoted. I was like, just go academics fully into it, step away from the athletic side of the journey. So I transferred to University of Kentucky, built out or basically restarted there within the pandemic environment, and, went to Europe. I went to study abroad in London, England, where I worked for a data science company that was spun out of Cambridge. And I started to understand more of how kind of software and AI is being put into industry and into lives, affecting people. And I was like, okay, I can work with this. I like to make ideas. And I was like, well, if I can take this experience and apply it to just whatever, then go from there. So came back to the US, graduated from University of Kentucky, and entrepreneurial spirit with kind of the building background. Let's go to Wake Forest Business School, get a degree in business analytics. And right now I'm trying to apply to Imperial College of London in London.
So you're going back to London?
Trying to go back to London.
Right.
So trying to get a master's in computing with a focus in AI and machine learning, just so I can really have a technical and fundamental understanding of everything underground, and also being able to, I guess you would say, sell, or really just be able to market things, and kind of the solo entrepreneur thing, if you will. That's kind of like the grand goal, I would say.
You're going to be the first solopreneur to have the $1 billion company?
Well, there's a lot of competition now, so we'll see. Hopefully.
You can be the unicorn.
We'll see.
Yes, this is investment advice right now. Invest in Jalen. So what specifically made you pivot from creating tic-tac-toe or whatever video game you were doing to AI? What did you see?
Really, I think it just came with growing up, really, if I'm being honest. Through my teens, video games. This is what I'm interested in, this is what I'm doing. But growing up,
was this like NBA 2K, or what were you programming?
Really, those what would you? I won't say tabletop simulators, but games where you're just jumping around and just nothing too crazy. What could you at a teen,
But then there was something that really excited you, something that clicked, and you said, artificial intelligence, I got to do this.
I think just with the release of ChatGPT, and then now especially agents, the curiosity is only growing still, and it's just the things that we can do with it. I think LLMs just being, you're able to talk to a computer, and whatever's going on in the background is able to output something to you, and that really just stuck with me. And I take a lot of inspiration from fiction, like you say, Iron Man, Jarvis, and all that. It's on the screen, it's in here in fiction and movies. It's possible, in my opinion, it's possible to make this real, and that's what really, I think, it's just something that's been in the back of my mind, or just a curiosity has just always been there. I'm like, well, this is what I'm really interested in, and this is why I feel like is worth pursuing, even if it's going to take a long time. So that's, I would say, with the release of AI and then now agents, it's just only a growing curiosity, and I understand kind of like the landscape of things, like with databases and just all this stuff. All of this overlapping with each other can make something just incredible, you know?
So you have this builder mindset. You mentioned LLMs,
Hmm.
large language models. You've built a baby GPT.
I have,
You've
yeah.
built a small language model.
Oh,
You may be the only student we've talked to. You are the only student we've talked to who has built a small language model.
mhm.
Why? How? Tell us about this.
So I was really wanting to just understand transformer architecture and how language models work. I don't want to say I think it's more of a goal now since I've made this, is to build an LLM eventually. You know, that might be very like awkward
Okay.
to the future,
Hmm.
but I at least wanted, you know, it's online. How to do it is online. And I was like, I have the time, I have the weekends.
You took a class, obviously.
A workshop, yeah, or
You took a
class
workshop.
workshop. It's presented to you, like walk through the steps. It was like a 2.5 hour video, I would say, or workshop, but like it probably took me 24 hours in total. The way I like just go through things and jot down notes and want to understand fundamentally what's going on.
So from a
Yeah.
2.5 hour video, you were able to build a language model.
Yes,
Where did you get the resources for this?
DEAC's cluster. DEAC's cluster. I took advantage of the GPUs that Wake Forest has, you know, the V100, A100s. I was able to utilize that architecture or just that hardware and make something that would take hours, only took a couple hours. So, you know.
Oh, here's another shout out to our HPC team.
Hmm.
Hopefully you're listening, Adam, Cody, and Sean. So you built this. You watched the YouTube video or you watched your tutorial. I think you had mentioned that you got your data set off Hugging Face,
Hmm. Tiny stories.
and you're doing this because you want to learn.
Hmm.
Now you're in the business analytics program,
Hmm.
Wake Forest, that is now famously kind of AI forward.
Hmm.
Recently won an award that, depending on when this gets released, we're going to maybe do an episode on that. But talk to us a little bit about that message from the professors, and did that influence your language model at all?
Let me think. I think a little bit. I don't want to say like I'm an outlier in the SBA program. I feel like the background is very important. You know, computer science background, I was fortunate to have.
Sure.
And a lot of people might have more business or non-comp sci related backgrounds.
Mhm.
I think I would have gotten to this place no matter what or making
Yeah.
it, but definitely just it's in my life a lot, both in the classroom and outside of it. And my curiosity is just I want to know how it's functioning, you know?
So what did you learn from building it
Hmm.
that any Joe Schmo or Michael Ferrari off the street who just puts in what's my favorite recipe doesn't
Mhm.
understand? What did you learn?
It's really just the math. The math is like I'm not gonna say it's out of this world, but it's layers and layers and layers of math functions, if you will, that it's just going into it. You're talking tokenization,
Mhm.
byte pair encoding, matrices that are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, like width, height, width.
Mhm.
There's a lot that goes into it.
So are these just all algorithms?
Fundamentally, yes. You know, it's all just algorithms, math equations. Definitely, you're telling it to form certain ways, but it's really all it
Did
is.
you build a conscious being?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. You should have seen some of the outputs. They're more gibberish than, or I'll say the beginning when before debugging. Oh my goodness, it could not speak at all. Oh my,
So
very
Michael's
ignorant.
AI girlfriend is just a bunch of equations.
Michael, I don't want to be the one.
Well, some of them.
No, but yeah, it's really just a bunch of probabilities and math stuck on top of each other, you know. That's very high level, I'll say, but yeah.
So your understanding of this model you built,
Mhm.
does this translate into the way that you use the large language models and how you interact with them?
I think just my understanding
Mhm.
more than anything. It's I think before, like I've always understand or had the higher level knowledge of all large language models are text predictors in a sense, but that didn't get fundamentally instilled into me until this project of like, wow, it's really just what word is more the probability of a word next to the other word. And when you think about it on the small scale to the like large scale, it's like obviously this is way more complex than we're talking billions, trillions of parameters now at this point. But at the end of the day, it's still just text predicting and probabilities.
So when you got to see under the hood and work with it and understand it a bit more, did how has that like overall changed your viewpoint of AI to where like say someone like my friend who's a motorcycle mechanic, it might as well be like magic to him. And then like other people who maybe have a bit more of a background in, you know, computing and stuff, kind of doesn't seem as magical. Like what kind of an impact did it have when you actually built your model?
I think it takes away from like, for like, oh, AI is going to take over everything. It's like,
Yeah.
I think personally it made it more, I don't know what you would say. I don't want to say more conscious, not conscious and not conscious that it's conscious, but it just made it more simple, I guess is the way to put it. Not that it's simple, but really it made it, I don't know.
Was it kind of like if you took a Mustang to the 1600s and, you know, drove it to them, it would be like, what am I looking at? But to like you, even though you might not understand exactly how it works, it's grounded in some kind of like sense that you have.
Yes, thank you. Exactly. It's very just grounding. It's very grounding. I would say for someone that doesn't know what's going on, it's probably still seems like magic, you know, and parts of it is still magic, you know. There was one specific part of this with the language model that it's able to abstract kind of nuances and just ways that words relate to one another. That is something I didn't code, something that wasn't introduced into the workshop, and it was specifically stated it's somehow able to interpret language and nuances on its own through these probability maths. And that's really, it is magic at the end. It's a black box, as they say.
Yes.
And this is the example of the black box.
So I think we'd all describe you as pretty AI forward.
Yes.
You seem pretty AI optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
But anybody who is optimistic and knows about artificial intelligence has some concerns.
Most definitely.
Talk to me about some of your concerns.
Concerns, really, I think, I don't want to say it's all in one hand. Definitely not all in one hand. But
how many fingers you got on that hand?
I would say who's making AI, what it's being used for, and kind of I don't know if you want to get into like small company or open sourced, privatized kind of things. I think those are very important. It's really just how is this being made either to benefit the world and people or towards corporations in a sense too. I feel like that's something people talk about, but it's also like not as, I don't know, not made as important, but it's a technology that's going to be going with us for the rest of our lives. So it's like, if you're raising a kid, what are you wanting to teach that kid in it to grow up into? You know, that's essentially how I view AI right now. What kind of kid are we raising?
Do you think the people who are building AI have too much power?
Too much, you could argue that, I would say. You could argue that. It's like they're the architects of the technology that's being placed in every company now in the world. I mean, take that with you will. It depends how they use it. I think it's very the regulations, whether it be in the US or Europe, I feel like we're starting to get into a place where we're putting ground set rules like, hey, we really need to watch how we're like using this, where it's being able to access, especially like cookies or people's personal information. You know, deep fakes are a real thing. Like those kind of things, if people like the companies that are making these projects, that's up to them really.
So there's 2.5 regions of the world building AI. There's the US, there's China, and then there's whatever Europe's doing. You're going to go over to Europe and figure this out for us. So Europe is very heavy on regulation.
Yes.
China is we are pedal to the metal, we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And the US is trying to keep up, but we're also trying to figure out this whole regulation.
Mm-hmm.
But while that's happening, there are inherent biases built in,
Mm-hmm.
and there's ideology built in.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see this with the spreading of what's built into those models, that ideology?
Good
So,
question.
are we sending our ideology to South America, to the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
or is this a geopolitical game, or is it just an economics game?
I think from what I've looked into, it's definitely Western hemisphere focused, but I do think since AI is trained on basically the entire internet or like all information that there is people can get their hands on, it does tend to lean neutrally if you don't press it too much and try to
Mhm.
get a certain outcome. But I don't know. That's one of the most important things in terms of like with our ethics classes is what bias are these AI models going to have? You know, I think we're talking in my ethics class of AI being used for criminal activity or like identifying if someone's going to recommit crimes in a sense. And that data was essentially biased towards African Americans or minority populations. Like there
Mhm.
was a white male who reoffended 3 times, but he was said to not reoffend again. And it's like,
So, from a builder's perspective,
mm,
are we in danger of losing culture if we have a Western
ooh,
bias and we're spreading that around, and other regions of the world are not taking part in the building of this?
that's a oh my god, that's a great question. I think we're gonna have to see. Honestly, it depends of how we come together when building these models, of course.
Mhm.
But as you could argue, that's something that's ahead of us for sure. I would say I don't know about y'all, but that's the way it's going, I guess. If Western companies are controlling the momentum of these consumer products that are used by the world, especially since not too many Europeans or Westerners are using Chinese models. Such DeepSeek's probably really, I'm not gonna say it's the only one. It's the one I most assume out of China.
Mhm.
But like you said, if we're not using Chinese biases, then we're using Western
Mhm.
philosophies in a sense. You know,
Well, since you are a builder, you are a creator,
mm.
you're gonna solve this for everybody.
I maybe alone, probably not, but a team, we can only see.
Okay, let's shift a little bit.
Mhm,
Why don't you tell us about your personal tool stack?
mhm.
Do I sound like a cool CS major by talking about that?
We can get into it. Yeah.
What is your personal artificial intelligence usage with some of the tools you use, and what do you use them for?
So I've shifted, you know, I was mainly on ChatGPT. I tried Perplexity and stuff like that in the early days, but I've more shifted to Claude and their Opus and Sonnet models now. I actually, I don't know, from our previous chat, I looked into Notebook LLM and I've been messing with that a little bit.
It's working, Michael. Working.
Very
But I
nice.
think I've been trying to explore more open models too.
Okay.
Gemma 4
Yeah.
by Google. I've been trying to look into that. I'm more still hesitant on giving access to my computer to certain tools and stacks and APIs, but working on that. But other like the way I use it is either for just more learning or just like figuring out ideas. You know, I feel like it's a very good thought partner.
Hmm.
Being just my curiosity is like I think, or like I was talking to Claude yesterday, and I was just like, what if we used AI models like in social media, for instance? I'm just like
Hmm.
trading ideas like how that could be used. I was like, what if we had an AI model like a pager or something like that? Like you just had it, you're able to connect with people that you meet in the real world and have your AI agent either connect you with that person, have their AI agent connect with you if you get at that level. And what would that look like? Like, what are the details that go into this? Pros, cons, like and stuff like
Hmm.
that. I just brainstorming and just expanding knowledge, I would say. Whether it be it's also a thing, knowledge is geared right or knowledge is trying to make me sound right. I think that's also a very important thing. But be cognizant of.
It seems like you use it to do some research,
Hmm.
you learn.
Hmm.
Do you feel there's a difference between deep learning and surface learning when you're using
Ooh,
these artificial intelligence tools?
yes. Yes, I do. I feel like with coding, for example, coding is rumored to be obsolete here, however many years in the future. Have AI agents just
Years? I think we're days away from it being.
I would like years in the terms of
Yeah.
like test casings
Yeah.
and things. I'm very against, or I'm not gonna say very against, but not knowing the technicalities behind everything, I feel like a little dangerous. A little dangerous. Like I know some videos watching the other day is like with Cursor and their AI agents now, you don't even have to look at the code.
Mhm.
Keyword, don't even have to look at the code. The code needs to be looked at, it needs to be tested. I think with a lot of the AI tools or products people are making nowadays, you hear about all these data breaches. Like, what are we going to do if we're just throwing out code, producing code that is able to be breached easily, unless these models are able to get some serious security and cybersecurity? Just I don't know what you say that they're just be able to do it very well.
Yeah.
Like that's where we are. I think we need to really understand what's going on under the hood, at least for the people making the tools. And obviously, that's obviously a thing. People know what's going on. But when we start going 5, 10, 15 years in the future, when our junior devs are turning into devs or senior devs, that's something to think about.
So they need to really go deep and understand the topics.
I would believe so, yes.
I think you've mentioned using some of the tools to tutor you and help you learn things so you can
hmm
actually dive deep into a topic if you want and pull in research from different places and learn.
hmm
You said something previously. It's a quote that I wrote down. It said, "Sometimes it doesn't feel right when you can go so fast."
I forget, but it sounds very good. Yeah.
I was going to ask you to explain that.
Can definitely explain it. Um, I know when I'm coding, at least there's a difference when I'm having AI help me solve problems, and then when I'm trying to solve problems on my own. I was just with a buddy this weekend at a cafe working and just doing like LeetCode problems for interviews and such. And it every time just gets reinforced. If I can't solve this through my own intuition, then something I just need to learn, obviously. But having an AI assistant, I lose that cognitive functions or just the pathways you take to learn something. I think I don't know, with some reports that are coming in nowadays, it's like AI is contributing to, I'm not gonna say loss in brain function, but we're not thinking as much. And I think I'm very excited for the research reports that come out here in the next however many years that show us how much we're either losing or just giving away when it comes to stuff like that.
There are so many reports coming out. Everybody and their brother are doing studies. I think they're great starting points.
hmm
But again, we're talking about being 2.5, 3 years into this. There's really no longitudinal studies.
hmm
But just like you, I'm excited to see the effect. There's a lot of doomer reports, but there's also a lot of upside reports on the capabilities we have as well. So
hmm
that will be interesting to watch. I mean, scroll through your favorite social media feed and you're going to find 12 different reports every hour.
See,
Oh,
I also think a lot, I will stand by, I think a lot is being put like at the feet of AI, and it's actually smartphones, because I've been seeing this for years, and Ryan and I have talked about it briefly a couple of times. It's
hmm
why I refuse to search things immediately if I'm trying to recall something or remember something, because like I notice everybody like around me like seems like they have like worse memories. And then I found like early on that like I wasn't retaining like information, because I'm always just like, oh, I could just look that up if I want. So I feel like there's this
hmm
part of my brain that wasn't getting exercised. And I think just like how we always talk about with like, people using it to write AI to write like essays in school. It's like, I just feel like a lot is AI is getting the blame for that. It's not.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because I'm guilty as charged. I immediately reach for that thing in my pocket that has the sum total of all the world's information in it. I mean, I can barely remember how to get home without GPS now.
Yeah, and then like similar to exactly what he was just saying with like with like using it for code, there's this real temptation to like have it produce code and just copy and paste it. But it's like, but what are you understanding? Like I always use it to
Hmm.
teach me if I'm having trouble, like go line by line if I have to explain it to me.
Yeah, yeah.
That's real interesting, Michael, because I want to let's stick on that code thing. It depends whether you're trying to learn the code or produce something, because I haven't seriously coded in 25 years, but if you and I want to code something one-on-one, I bet you I'm going to finish it a lot quicker than you are, because I'm just going to keep hitting yes every time the agent asks me questions, and you're going to understand it better. I'm not even going to look at the code, but you will absolutely 100% understand it better.
Yeah, and like the way I usually like will use it is I'll say, "Don't give me the answer," and then I'll give it the code that I have to say it's something not working, and just being like, it's great having it be able to tell me like you're almost there. Here's where you're misunderstanding things, or here's the
Hmm.
step you're failing to do. It breaks it down like, say you're taking this piece of information in and you need to convert it to this and then output it here. It's like, well, how you got this and this. This is the part that's wrong. Think about how you would do that. And
Hmm.
I feel like it's been like a godsend over like having to just Google forums or just bash my head against it forever to until I hopefully get it.
Hmm. There's definitely ways that I don't think we have found the exact way yet, but just in terms of like how people learn, it might differ from people as well. But it's with your use case, like it's a great mirror to have. It really is, especially just with your own thoughts. That's one of the really strong things about it. Is just the individuality of kind of your own problem assessment. You know, it's talking with somebody like how we're talking with each other here. We might not understand like how the other person thinks, but with AI, once it gets to know you more, especially nowadays with memory, it's like, okay, let's say like Jalen, this is how you think. This is with your example, you have A and C, but this is how you think. Try and think this way to get for this B part. And yeah.
I was, I'll say it like you said it. I was talking to Claude the other day, and I asked a question about something, and it came back to me and said, "Why don't you just make a sports analogy?" And I was like, "Why did you say that?" And it's like it's pulling on my memory that I talked to it a lot about sports, or
Hmm.
and it had not. It was something to do with like highways, or I can't remember. It was driving or something. And I'm just sitting there going, exactly what you're saying about the memory,
Hmm.
that it knew my past conversations.
Hmm.
And it said, "What do you?" I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." So we're getting into that weird point where it's going to know your personality.
Hmm.
It's going to know how you want to do certain tasks, or potentially, let's bring this back to education. It's going to know how you learn.
Hmm.
So if let's say we're all going to be huge, computer geeks here, like we are. Um, you want to do some coding. I want to do some coding, and Michael wants to do some coding. Well, it's going to know how to reach each of us individually
Yes.
to get that same project. Say we all have the same assignment,
Hmm.
but it's going to teach us all very differently.
In our own pathways,
Yeah,
if you will. And to expand, kind of going away from academics in a sense, but I don't know if you've heard Mark Zuckerberg trying to create his own digital
of
twin,
course.
like that for just being able to. So in a
That's
use
what we need
case,
more in this world. More Mark Zuckerberg.
that's someone's opinion or everyone's opinion. But to the audience, for context, Mark Zuckerberg, he wants to have a digital twin of himself within the AI or the Meta ecosystem, so that an employee, say a junior dev, senior dev, can just talk to this AI, and it's supposed to
Mhm.
be a one-to-one representation of Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah,
We'll see how that goes. If it's like either what it's supposed to be or the metaverse, maybe. But
I'm glad he's experimenting with it. We'll see how that goes. Okay, let's come back to the classroom now.
gotcha.
The Our business school is killing it with
Hmm.
AI right now. Like we said, that they're winning awards, very AI forward. We got some fantastic leadership there, fantastic professors.
Definitely.
You've mentioned even being in Philip Howard's class,
Hmm.
and Philip was a great guest. Tell our listeners what it's like from the inside. We've heard from the professors.
Hmm.
Tell us the students' perspective of what it's like to be in a program that is AI forward.
I would say, given like with the context of all this happening within the last 3 to 5 years, it's almost seems as like right now it's like, I'm not sure how with AI being introduced to everything is simply me saying this how I feel about it, but as a use case, say with like integrating AI tools into Excel and stuff like that, it's like that's even if I want to say, oh, I don't trust that in a sense, that's going to happen no matter what,
Mhm.
in my opinion. And being able to like with Professor Howard, him instilling this to us already, being able to make Excel functions using AI, like coding basically algorithms or math equations that we might not necessarily know by heart, but being able to have just that experience of integrating it, using it ourselves to expand upon later, it's oh my goodness, it's something that's going to take us forward years from now more than we think, I think.
Do you find the professors integrate AI into the assignments, or are they telling you to stay away from it?
It's a mix. It's a mix.
Okay.
You know, we have some assignments that, hey, use AI for this as a thought partner or just help your general thought process, or hey, don't use it for this. Think around in your own way to how to solve these problems. So it's very just it's mixed, which I would say rather than one or the other, pretty good, I would say.
What is the general feeling? Is there a lot of energy one way or another?
I think it's per person, honestly.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you remember from the panel like very months ago.
Mhm.
I think there's always going to be people who are very AI forward, and
Mhm.
then there's going to be people who are very against AI, and then there's going to have balance from one spectrum to the other. I'll say it's uniform distributed, but I think it's again we're in the early stages of the rest of our lives, you know.
Mhm.
So it's going to be to each of their own of how they use this technology in their everyday life, really.
So you said something previously about students are jetpacking themselves.
Hmm.
Can
Jet-
you,
oh, okay, okay.
what does that mean?
Jetpacking themselves. If you can, I think, learn something now that used to take weeks to a month, and we're going to assume that you learn this and you know it pretty well, or you can retain
Mhm.
it, and you can jump from topic to topic to topic, especially with the access to the internet, and then you have an AI agent now that's able to get these resources without you even having to really look. That whether that takes away from that process or not, who knows? But I think you could say with really everything, just the exponential time, I would say decrease of having to look for things, you can just learn and excel faster than really ever have been before, you know?
So is the barrier to entry, to use a business term,
Hmm.
of learning or acquiring new skills much lower?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You also said something that seems very counterintuitive, and I want to see if you can explain this as well, that in this age of AI, that collaboration between students is actually up.
Hmm. Again, I think the one thing I want to say is with AI, I feel like it's going to introduce a lot more, I don't say renaissance tones to things, but like having all the answers at your fingertips can be a double-edged sword, if you
Mhm.
will. Having all the knowledge on one end, how am I going to cipher through this?
Mhm.
When you're able to talk to people and bounce ideas off each other, I feel like again that goes into our retaining or learning kind of thing where you don't have to have AI just answer everything for you, but through talking with other people, bouncing ideas, sharing information, wow, and basically trying to uncover what everyone has access to. I think that is what's going to really, I'll say, rise or yeah, sponsor more collaboration.
So if I met you on the street, you are not the prototypical Hollywood computer nerd,
Yeah, but that's
right?
most definitely.
I can look in the mirror, I can see what I am too. You don't seem like a huge introvert.
Depends who you ask.
Okay. How do you feel about the human connection with your classmates and with your professors?
Oh, it's great. It's or yeah,
Do you think AI is having a positive or negative effect on that?
positive. I think if anything, having to use a tool, the tool, I'll say, it gives us something to talk about, if
Mhm.
anything, But I'm the type of person that I look towards the past more like, say with like Roman times and stuff like that. It's like I within all this ecosystem, I found myself looking more deeply into just the roots of just humanity, if you will. And I think in just terms of like arts, culture, and stuff like that. And I feel like when you're given all this information again, it's it can be overloading, and the only way to really get through the overload or stress is to just talk to people, socialize, and a lot of
Why
collaboration.
not just talk to the AI?
That only gets you so far, unless you're someone that is able to talk to an AI and make it, I don't want to say your like life partner or something like that, your friend. I don't know, Michael. We're looking at you in the office, but yeah, I think it could only go so far if you're talking to an AI. Maybe like Blade Runner. Eventually, it's that's what it is. But at least here right now in 2026, I feel like being able to talk to people more, especially with our circumstances with AI, it brings up a lot of cooperation.
So we've touched on this topic a couple of times, and one of the reasons is it's something that professors are starting to notice and start worrying about is office hours.
Hmm.
How do you see more office hours, less office hours? How do you see those conversations going?
I do know people have the opinion of being able to like, hey, I can just ask AI anything I want. Why would I need to go to a professor to get an answer that I might not even get, or that might go through their head, before they even make the action of going to talk to a professor. But I think we've talked about this. It's in a sense of, sure, I can ask AI questions that I have, but if I can go to a professor who knows the source material and can help me walk through their understanding and they help teach me, that's going to leave a much bigger imprint than typing a few questions. That sounds nice. And then you continue on with whatever you're doing. Like the action of going in, practicing socialness, and figuring something out with another collaborator, I don't think you can take away from that. And when it comes to the professors, I think they're getting a better understanding now of that's going on. So if the two people are making action to talk about this with one another, I think that's going to only help increase. But it's that fundamental barrier of AI that we should watch out for.
So the office hours have been somewhat of a proxy for that not human, teacher-student relationship, or it's sort of been the foundation for that's where the relationship starts.
Most definitely.
And another thing we've talked about on the podcast before is those conversations of the office hours now can be strengthened
Hmm.
because you're getting those initial basic questions out of the way. The students are now coming to the professor with a deeper conversation question,
Hmm.
and they can go to higher order topics that the professors probably want to talk about anyway,
Hmm.
not the basic 101 questions that they have to answer 100 times a semester.
Hmm.
They'd rather have this outside the box thinking, and those students, they are getting that basic foundational language out of the way, or they're getting that from the AI before they
Hmm.
go in to see the professor.
It's like I said earlier, the foundation or the barriers to entry, since it's a lot lower, you can assess your information. Of course, if you come prepared or don't come prepared, that's a totally different conversation. But if you're able to ask, like, say, AI, hey, I have these questions, I want to ask my professor, what's like the groundwork, or in some circumstances like that, and then go to your professor, like, hey, this is what I've learned. These are my. You can even go to your professor, be like, hey, this is where I'm stopped at. This is where I'm stuck. I think that right there, that's helps you generally more than anything.
Cool. You have a builder mentality.
Do you think?
I do. I do. But to do that, you need to stay informed in the industry.
Hmm.
How is it possible? How do you stay on top of an industry that has changed 17 times in the time we've been recording?
You can't know everything, I'll say. That's, my uncle is a developer, and I've talked to him this many times. I'm, I've come to or I don't want to say conclusion, or I'm comfortable with the fact I'm probably going to be learning this the rest of my entire life. You can't know everything. I think that was a goal of mine, like previously, like growing up, like, oh, I've told my professors this all the time too, like, I got to learn all this stuff. My hands are on my head right now for the audience.
Yeah.
But like,
Visual podcast.
but you know, take your fragments as they come.
Mhm.
Some news is going to be bigger than others.
Mhm.
In that I feel like it's going to bring itself to you.
Yeah.
But of course, everyone's interested in their own domains. So you're eventually going to just come across knowledge you're generally interested in if you're chasing your curiosity, if you will.
Mhm.
And for me, it just comes and goes to me through my internet feeds. I try to stay off social media, honestly. Like I think I only use like YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram here on a couple occasions, but generally, or Reddit too. Like I get news postings of just papers that come out,
Mhm.
or just changes in the field. It comes to me. So luckily,
So you've developed some news feeds.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
come
yeah.
to you. How would you tell other students who may be overwhelmed by this AI explosion?
Mhm.
How would you tell them to get informed or learn?
I would say start small,
Mhm.
pursue a topic you're interested in, and try to connect that topic to other areas that are related to that. I think there's a lot of overlap now, especially with the technology and just things that people are interested in. So I'm sure there's ways that you can create a web of information, if you will, that relates to one thing, or maybe doesn't relate to something, but you can use it for other areas. I just saw this the other day. I don't know if this was Steve Jobs or somebody, but they took one area that even relate to a certain topic and applied it to another, and they are able to solve like a problem doing that. I feel like cross disciplinariness is also going to be very important as well. We're really just, you know, hammer to now, the brick by brick scheme, if you will, take a step at a time.
It's a perfect segue into my next question of you have an entrepreneurial mindset.
Mhm.
Why is now the best time to be an entrepreneur?
The introduction of new technology, there's so many pathways to do something nowadays. There's a million ways to solve a million problems. And since the technology is so open now, especially too, I think one thing which I'll bring up, I don't know if this relates to the question as much, but the idea that these AI companies will start taking away access to models in a sense, or I know switching from ChatGPT plus to the free version, I was a lot less limited. I have like 5 chats a day, or I can only use image processing maybe for 4 pictures a day. And with my plus version, I was just able to do whatever I wanted. I think the compute thing with energy, especially, is that they may take it away more. So if you're not being able to get the same resources that we are today, in the future, we may not be able to get that opportunity as much. It's like the time is now. We have the availability, with the opportunity, and the resources, especially the resources are the most important thing. And we're able to you can just execute the stuff now.
Fantastic. Okay, we're running out of time.
Really?
We are. Got one more question for you.
Gotcha.
I know you're going to grad school.
Mhm.
I know you want to build something,
Mhm.
but let's say you're sitting in an interview for a job. So
Mhm.
when you're sitting in this next interview, and this interviewer, maybe it's an AI agent, maybe it's a human, they ask you, "Are you AI fluent?"
My
How hard are you going to laugh? And will you say to them, "How much time do you have?"
AI fluent. AI is the ultimate umbrella term for everything, if you will.
Because anytime somebody goes for a job interview now,
Mhm.
you have to throw the word AI in there.
Mhm.
And so when they ask you, "Do you have AI skills?" Are you just going to say,
Yeah.
"Here, hold my pencil"?
You know, um, I would maybe double on the question, like, what specifically are you asking, or what skills are you looking for? Maybe, then we can start talking like, hey, this is where my knowledge extends to, whether it be into machine learning, deep learning. I'm trying to get into robotics a little bit. That's more on like the outer edge of things. But
I mean, you're in the 1%, so you're just going to sit there with a big smile and say, "I got this."
I would say so, hopefully, me personally, I doubt myself a little bit, but when I get talking, that's when I think things start to come out, or my knowledge starts to come out.
I mean, we're sitting here with a basketball player who started coding video games, who watched a YouTube video and then built a language model. That's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you.
I think you've nailed this whole AI thing so far.
I'm trying to. It's just, I feel like I have a vision in a sense, and I'd really like to see that vision become a reality. It takes a lot of hard work. There's no doubt about that at all. but I feel like it's a life pursuit worth pursuing. And so far it's worked out so far. And we'll see if the next chapter comes to see how I see it. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to our guest, and thanks for listening to the DEAC.ai podcast. Please continue to follow the AI discussion by subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you have any comments, questions, or would like to join the discussion, please email us at deacs.ai@wfu.edu.